controls. With a living building, the way I would really describe a living building, and the term that I use is a future-enabled building. The systems are organized in a way, they're all disentangled from each other, disentangled from the structure. This is based on a sort of broad concept called residential building, and we started to apply it in pretty specific ways to row houses and single-family houses. And when all of the systems are organized logically and accessible for the entire length of the system, and disentangled from structural elements, interior wall framing, load-bearing walls, so that nothing that's lower on the hierarchy, for example, a plumbing system or electrical power and data, is in any way, like if you change it or if you make repairs or anything like that, it's never going to negatively impact something higher on the hierarchy, such as the structure of the exterior state or the operating performance. And what that allows you to do is start to make single trade or small groupings of trade incremental investments in a building that allow you to spend very little amounts of money, very little amounts of energy, very little amounts of material to actually exceed your initial design goals, your initial goals. And I'm not going to get into too much detail to how we did that, but there's we developed we have a chassis system that we've developed that organizes all the systems within the house. And what was interesting about this to me was there was a challenge to apply it to some fairly significantly different configurations. The villa and the row house actually ended up being a good test of the application of this. And but what we've done is we found that if you treat the whole building as a system and you reorganize everything, you still have all the same parts, you still have all the same quantity of stuff, and you're just organizing in a different way. So we didn't actually see cost a hit too much on the upfront costs on this. But to sort of get back to the affordability question, I'll sort of give an example, or affordability goals. I'll give an example of how this might work in practice. And so obviously in this case, there's a lot of gray water reuse already built in. Generally in a single family home, the health departments and building codes don't allow gray water reuse to be built in. And they're pretty engineering intensive. And so with this system, you can build a conventional system in your building, and then down the road, if you decide if the technology changes or codes change or requirements change, you can replace the entire plumbing system as a single trade job, from fixtures to outlets, without drilling a hole in the wall, without hiring a painter, without having any flooring repair or anything else. And that applies to every system in the building. We didn't make any assumptions about, you size it for the largest case, ducted forced air systems. Anything else can go in that space, and doesn't require any general contractors. Doesn't require a structural engineer to make those levels of changes. So from an operations and life cycle perspective, we feel like this really makes the case for possibly the most affordable housing that we could build, and that was the goal for this.
Okay. So representing the landscape architecture component of the project, going from kind of the minute detail of the structure and the replaceability of some of the water plumbing systems, etc. Going back to our site plan here, thinking about water is really a theme for the project, and how we can collect and treat the rainwater, not only from the individual units, but also from the larger site, so beyond the property line. This is an early diagram that we looked at. It's one of the first charrettes that we had for the project, but I think it was a helpful tool in letting us understand, okay, what are we focused on, and an early indication that we felt this concept of dividing the units and creating a central space that had a connection to Marvin Gaye Park and Watts Branch was going to be really important, and that central space, there was an opportunity there to celebrate the collection and treatment of the rainwater, and that this could be a theme for the project and really help us tell the story. From that initial diagram, then we created a little pencil sketch here that started to ask some questions and make some statements about what kind of experience we were looking for. So some of the things on here, seed a meadow with native grasses for you and the birds. So thinking about not only the space for us inhabiting it, but also flora and fauna that we would want to occupy the site, capturing filter rainwater from your site and beyond, see trees out your window. These are experiences that we wanted to cultivate with the landscape and begin to engage the architecture within this as well. So thinking about it from the larger scale site plan, but also down to each individual water collection area. Where are we collecting the water? How are we treating it? What different types of water are we dealing with? There's water coming from the street, which has a different pollutant level than water coming from a roof. And where does this water end up? And how do we represent this process so that you as an individual user or a resident or even someone just walking by can start to get an understanding of this path that the water travels. These are a couple of early sketches that we're starting to show. Okay, we start to take water from the street level and we run it through this urban creek, and then we start to expose it in a large pond here, and then run it in front of the villa units. That's a celebration of that water, and as Neil mentioned earlier, cleansing it in the entire way. So the natural topography of the site is run in this direction. So utilizing that natural topography to our advantage and starting to engage the architecture with the landscape. So in some instances, we're pulling the architecture out, and others we're pulling the landscape into the buildings, and starting to think about what forms might make sense for the site, and architecturally trying to tie together the garden and the home. These are just a couple images that highlight this as an experience during a storm event, collecting the water from the rooftops, collecting it in cisterns for reuse. The overflow of the cistern then goes into the urban creek, and as the water's flowing through that urban creek, then it's being cleansed as it ultimately ends up with a fountain feature that we took a clue from a whale and said, okay, we'll use these little spouts right here and have an artistic celebration during a storm event, so that it's not just rain at that point. It becomes an opportunity to get out and watch this path of travel. This is just an overall rendering getting to that point where you can see where the water's coming in at the back of the site here, traveling through the creek. And so when this is not full of rainwater, it's an opportunity for habitat and for kids to play in, and a semi-private type garden space with individual private gardens at each of the units for the row houses. So stepping back and taking a broader look at this process and the project, for me personally, and I would say for other members of the team, for us, I think the value is really in the collaboration. And so I'm guessing most of you can identify this gentleman here. Many of you may not know the other, the image on the right. But so Frank Lloyd Wright on the left and Jens Jensen on the right. Frank Lloyd Wright, the architect, and Jens Jensen, landscape architect. And this is a letter from Jens Jensen to Frank Lloyd Wright in what I think is the most beautiful handwriting I think I've seen. Somewhat illegible, but beautiful nonetheless. But the quote from Frank Lloyd Wright speaks to his personality. But what I think is more interesting is the response from Jens Jensen. This is from 1930. And really, Jens is talking about, it's not the individual stars that matter. It's the tapestry of individual talents that come together to create something really brilliant that everyone can experience. And so for us, it was this opportunity to sit down and sketch and learn from each other and put our talents together to create something that we felt was beautiful to us and to also a broader audience. And I think, thinking about competitions in the future, we'd love to engage even a broader team, seeing the development arm of it and the engineering arm. And to me, that's the most inspiring component, is the realization that we know so little, but that when our efforts are combined and put together, we can create this really rich universe of knowledge and creation. And so this last image is just this is a piece of art pottery from the Teco company, which came from the Prairie School. And during this period in the 20th century, we had artists, landscape architects, ecologists, writers, all coming together to create really a spirit, and they called that the Prairie School. And it was an aesthetic movement to a certain degree, and I think what's exciting about the Petals and the Living Building Challenge is that it takes it far beyond the aesthetics of what you're looking at, and really asks us to engage at every level, not only in what it looks like, but how it performs.